Hollywood's golden age is filled with stories of predatory men who let power get to their heads when dealing with their female peers. But there are few figures quite as notorious as billionaire producer Howard Hughes. Join Factsverse as women who slept with Howard Hughes reveal his darker side. Howard Hughes was born into great wealth. At age 18, he inherited a fortune of over $20 million from his father. Given that this was the early 1900s, that already exuberant sum meant a good deal more than it would today. With this fortune, he was afforded the opportunity to live his life however he chose. While others might have chosen to live a life of leisure, Howard dedicated his adult years to many great pursuits, from aviation to film production. Though Howard was a Renaissance man of sorts, it seems his greatest passions resided in Hollywood. And all in all, it seems the thing Howard loved most about Hollywood was the women. The story of his Hollywood career is filled with tales of women who the producer used up and tossed aside, and this only got worse as he got older. Early on, Howard would target notable starlets and try to get them under his command. Once this didn't prove as fruitful as the wealthy socialite desired, he began setting his sights on younger women who didn't yet have their footing in the industry. With this move, he became a full-blown predator. Today, the kinds of things that Howard did to female stars would not be tolerated. This is especially true in the wake of the Me Too movement. When Howard Hughes first stepped foot in Hollywood, he set his sights on such starlets as Ava Gardner, Bette Davis, and Ginger Rogers. Following their time with the billionaire playboy, all of these starlets went on to share some pretty damning stories about him. But they all seemed to be in agreement of the fact that the man was an excellent lover. According to the late Ava Gardner, Howard was the man who taught her people didn't need to rush when they were making love. But Howard's talents as a lover didn't make up for his more abusive side. Ava Gardner beat Howard Hughes with a chair. Given that Ava was an established presence in Hollywood, she was able to escape from Howard's clutches. Things came to a head between them when the actress was caught lying about having met up with ex-husband Mickey Rooney. When Howard found out, he launched into an all-out assault. He punched Ava, which sent her flying backwards onto a chair. The man then pounced on the actress and began bludgeoning her. Thankfully, the forceful Ava was able to defend herself by grabbing a nearby bronze ornament and striking her lover in the head with it. One strike was apparently all it took to turn the tables. His head was split open and his teeth were knocked loose. With the producer in shock, Ava was said to have picked up a chair and beat the man with it until a maid came in and reasoned with her to stop. Bette Davis's tale of Howard Hughes isn't nearly as harrowing as Ava's, but it still goes to show how manipulative he could be. According to Bette, Howard had told her during the period of time in which they were lovers that she was the only woman he'd ever achieved orgasm with. At the time, Bette believed what she was hearing, but as she became older, the late actress realized how unlikely it was that that was true. Before we tell you more, be sure to give this video a like and subscribe to Factsverse if you haven't already.
This video is brought to you by Shaker and Spoon. Shaker and Spoon is a monthly cocktail subscription box that delivers the craft cocktail experience right to your front door. Each month, you'll receive a box with 3 unique recipes in them. You'll get to try out different liquors and quality ingredients without having to individually purchase all of the items. I ordered the Begin Again box, which features gin-based cocktail recipes. I was really impressed by the quality of the ingredients, which ranged from fresh rosebuds to delicious syrups and garnishes. The first recipe I tried was for a cocktail called Play It Cool. The recipe card was super easy to follow, and it's without a doubt one of the most delicious cocktails I've ever made at home. So if you're interested in delicious, complex drinks made simple and delivered to your front door, check out Shaker and Spoon today. If you click the link below and use the code FAXVERSE at checkout, or go to shakerandspoon.com/FAXVERSE, you can get $20 off of your first box.
Howard tried to guilt Ginger Rogers into marriage. Howard Hughes and Ginger Rogers had a romantic relationship that lasted several years, though nothing good came of it. In 1940, Howard proposed to the actress and said he was going to build a mansion for the two of them to live in together and start a family. Ginger appreciated the sentiment and seriously considered the offer. But what started out as a seemingly virtuous romance soon turned dark when the producer's controlling nature began to show itself once more. At first, it was little things, like Howard demanding Ginger be available for him whenever he desired. Then things got more serious when the actress suspected the producer was spying on her. As with Ava Gardner, Howard's relationship with Ginger came to an end with a bang. The story goes Howard faked a car crash when he began fearing he was losing his grasp on Ginger. The plan was to get Ginger's pity and convince her to go through with the marriage. Thankfully, his plan to emotionally manipulate Ginger into staying with him backfired. Ginger called the producer's bluff, and their tumultuous relationship was finally over. Ginger spoke on the matter in the following years before her death, claiming what Howard was really trying to do by making her his wife was imprison her. Howard got more predatory during later life. After realizing it was too difficult to control established stars, Howard decided he needed to make a star of his own. He set about stalking the most attractive teenagers he could find in hopes of tricking them into signing a contract with him. One of his first notable victims was Faith Domergue, who was only 16 when the two met. When pursuing Faith, Howard made no distinction between wanting to make her a star and wanting to make her his wife. However, it later proved to be the latter goal that was truly on his mind. Howard pursued Faith romantically for months, all the while promising he could make her a star. The young woman eventually accepted, with the two of them entering into an engagement and the producer saying he was going to make her famous. Disturbingly, Howard was said to have asked Faith to refer to him as her father-lover, with the producer being nearly 2 decades her senior. Howard hooked Faith with the promise of both marrying her and making her a star. Sadly, it seems her faith was misplaced. Howard didn't make good on either promise. Faith had been signed with Warner Brothers before meeting Howard, but the studio hadn't done much with her. Howard purchased the contract, claiming he would make her a star, but he ended up doing even less with her. He only purchased the contract so he could keep her under his control. Howard Hughes essentially imprisoned Faith. After becoming engaged to Faith and purchasing her contract, Howard nearly had full control over the would-be starlet. His final step was to move Faith and her parents into a home down the street from his own, as well as to give the male members of her family jobs at his company. Howard had finally built a prison, and he kept Faith inside it for several years before she broke free. He then repeated this same scenario again and again with other would-be starlets before he finally passed away. Howard Hughes kept tabs of Faith and knew every single thing she did. When Howard wasn't around to keep tabs on her himself, he had the hired help do it. All the while, Howard could be found traipsing around Hollywood and dabbling in affairs with such figures as Lana Turner. One of the stranger stories of the way Howard treated his women is how the producer would demand his drivers slow to a halt when going over speed bumps so that the breasts of his female companions would not be jiggled. It seems the producer believed jiggling of the breasts led to sagging, which was something he had no room for in his romances. Now it's time to hear from you. Did you know Ava Gardner once knocked a couple of Howard Hughes' teeth loose? Let us know in the comment section below. And before you go, make sure you give this video a like and subscribe to Facts First if you haven't already. Click the bell icon to stay updated on all our latest content. By the way, if you haven't joined Facts First as a member yet, be sure to look below this video and click the join button. By becoming a paid member of Facts First, you'll get access to exclusive video content that you won't find anywhere else. This includes some of our more mature content that isn't suitable for public audiences, which includes topics like Hollywood actresses who posed for Playboy and some of the steamiest moments in movie history. Plus, you can enjoy these videos completely ad-free. Our biggest fans will notice they also get badges next to their name when they leave comments on our videos. We pay special attention to comments from our members, and so do other viewers. So if you want exclusive content from Facts First or inside access to discussions with other community members, click the join button to get started for just $4.99. There are hours of members-only videos waiting for you, with new videos added every month. And we're actively working on bringing even more features to help fans like you connect with other members and get more of your favorite content. Just click join, and we'll see you inside the membership tab.